Hello there and welcome back to Painting with Martin. Today I'm back with a tiny epic Game of Thrones, a 1 to 4 player game for 18 plus. And they said 18 plus because probably there is a bunch of violence there in the game, just like it is in the regular Game of Thrones, the series, and in the books. Now this is a licensed copy from HBO. They managed to secure the license, Gamelyn Games. And I managed to secure myself a copy from them. So thank you very much to Gamelyn Games for giving me this game. And I also have to say that there's going to be a link in the description box below here, where if you buy something from Gamelyn Games, I will get a small percentage as a commission. So if you want to support the channel, this is a good way to do so. And of course, there's no must for that. So I'm just going to say that it's slightly sponsored by them, and that's it. I have to say that for YouTube's terms and conditions. So with that said, I have already pre-painted some of the miniatures here. This is from the base game, including where is he? Where is the little guy? I think. Oh yes, he's hard to miss in the series, but in here I missed him as well. Here's Tyrion as well. No intention of missing him, but that's what happens when it comes down to bad planning and so on as well. So we're going to put on the base paints, then followed by washes and highlighting touches, unless we use a contrast paint, in which I will tell you if I do so. There will be a full list of paints in the description box below. And with that said, I'm going to paint these in stages. So when I see there is one figure, for example, I'll take Robert Baratheon here as an example. I'm gonna, if everyone is using leather shoes, I will gonna paint them all at once, and so on with the other colors, because when you're painting with this many figures, this is a way to speed things up. I have my palette over here off camera, and I've got my trusty water pot. I've got some nice kitchen roll paper as well on the side here. I'm going to be using mostly the card art from the game itself when I paint these ones. I'm going to try to make them look as close as possible to the card art. Now, if there is as you can see here, the card art doesn't show the lower portion of their bodies. So there I've taken the liberty of going to Google and see where I can find more information about it, to make it as closely looking as closely as possible to the board game as well as the TV series. So with that said, I'm going to start by going into painting all the facial details of those who are showing, as well as some of the hands, by using a speed paint from Armor Painter called Crusader Skin. I'll give it a good shake in between and off camera, of course, and I'm going to put it on my palette, and I'm going to use it neat. I'm going to take off my glasses because otherwise I won't be able to see very much. And we're going to go through, and we'll start with Robert Baratheon. And Robert Baratheon has a fairly nice... All these miniatures are really nice. I'm going to put on my glasses. I think I thought I wouldn't use them, but it turns out that I do. They are fairly small, these figures, so... and by painting the faces and the skin details first, I let them dry, and then we can go on to the rest. Doesn't have to be completely perfect. He has a little bit of a beard there as well, so we can leave this one to the side. Moving on to, I believe Oberyn Martell also has nice features. He's a spear-wielding guy. If you haven't watched the series, there will be plenty of spoilers in this video, so I recommend that you don't, or at least you turn off the sound or something like that. I do want to continue watching, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please consider clicking the little bell button below, and you won't miss any updates as well. And thank you to all of you who have subscribed to my channel in the past, and continue to do so. It really helps me grow. And if you want to help me even further, leave a little comment on each video, because it really helps the algorithm. Moving on to Eddard Stark. He's still alive in this one here. We'll see if he continues to do so when I play the game, and may not be alive for much longer if you play him like they did in Game of Thrones. And if you feel that you've put on a little bit too much, just use a damp brush and move it around as such. Moving on to, I believe it's Jaime Lannister. He's looking smug as always, and his hands as well. Hands you don't need because they are covered by gloves or armor. And moving on to, I believe it's Hostatully. It wasn't seen very much in the series, but I guess he features prominently in the books instead. And Hostatully has also, there are no hands there showing, so you can just focus on the facial details, which is the face and the beard. Moving aside, of course, we've got Tyrion Lannister. You just paint the face. This is going to be a fairly long video, I have to warn you, because they are painting everything from the base game at once. Making sure that, we have... I could do them separately as well, and I thought about doing that, but I thought about also, why not paint one single one in one go. When it comes to Euron Greyjoy, his the hand holding the axe is not to be painted with skin color. He's wearing some kind of glove, and the face, as well as, don't forget, his neck here as well, also needs to be, he has this so as such. Olenna Tyrell is last figure to have her face covered with this paint, and again it's only the face as well as her hands. As such. And this one is done. You can leave the models to dry, we don't touch the faces for a while. And then we go on to painting everyone's boots. When it comes to boots, we're using another contrast color called Snakebite Leather from Citadel. Again, we're going to cover those, and we're going to cover those with this color. We use it neat. We skip Olenna Tyrell, we skip Euron Greyjoy, of course we skip the chair, but we do go on to Tywin Lannister. Tyrion Lannister. Tywin is not in this game. Maybe he had an unfortunate accident in the privy. Who knows? So, with this one done, and the reason I'm doing this all at once is it saves time, and also it leaves them to dry. For Hostatully, also there, leather boots. If you feel that I'm wrong in any regards to what paints I should have chosen, please inform me in the comments and let me know. I'd love to discuss it with you. I'm an avid Game of Thrones fan. I have not read the books. People probably point that out to me several times, and that I should. But I want to one day. But in the meantime, I have watched the whole series, and I've watched also the Dragon series, the prequels, which I think are really, really good as well. So with this one going up, and don't make sure that you don't cover the sword too much. If you do, no problem, we'll cover it with metal anyways. And they're already looking quite okay. Moving on to Jaime Lannister, of course, he's got nice leather boots. And in the series, in the TV series, he also wears this. Something like this. Oops, drops it a little bit. Happens. We've got a Eddard Stark also has leather boots. You could paint them black if you want to, but I painted them leather boots because I wanted a little bit of contrast, because otherwise it's a very dark miniature and it gives it a little bit of contrast, and I like that. We've got Oberyn Martell, also has leather boots. And I got in touch with Gamelyn Games at Essence Spiel last year. They're really nice guys to deal with. They make phenomenal games. I like most of their tiny epic series, but also The Last Kingdom board game, who I've painted a little bit as well. And you can check that out also in the link in the screen here as well. Now, of course, we've got The Last Leather Boots is for Robert Baratheon. Probably the most beautiful miniature that I painted here. I'm not saying that only because he is a king, nor he is, he is a Baratheon. And since he is in the game, it also shows that this one takes place early on in the series. Otherwise, something maybe unfortunate happened to him. Who knows? Paint the leather boots. We're going to go over and make sure that these ones get highlight afterwards. But this one is a nice base paint that mixes the good qualities of a wash with a base paint, saving us plenty of time and focus afterwards. So with this one done, I'm going to leave this one to the side, wash my brush and dry it in a piece of kitchen roll. We're now going to go over to a significant part of our miniatures that are covered by some kind of dark colour. And when it comes to, I'm going to show you the card art here. Euron Greyjoy has this one. It's a kind of a like very dark, almost black coat, and also the axe handle as well. So we're going to cover him, and everyone else that has also the dark colour. I'll show you another one. Eddard Stark is one, and also we've got Hoster Tully is another one. So we're going to cover this one with using German Grey from Vallejo. It's not entirely black and will give a nice standard finish when we start it. And I'm going to make sure that I cover it with a little bit of water, diluting it with a little bit of water, maybe 1 part, 2 parts paint and 1 part water, making sure that it's not entirely oversaturated. And I'm going to first start by the Iron Throne. I'm going to use this one for covering the entire Game of Thrones as it is, and I'm using this color to make sure that it provides a good base and also some shadows for the swords and the metal that's going to be in the Iron Throne as well. There is another board game besides Game of Thrones, the board game, Game of Thrones, Tiny Epic Game of Thrones, called Game of Thrones, the board game from Fantasy Flight. This is not to be confused by this one because it also features an Iron Throne, and I'm not using any kind of like images from that game, but I have taken the liberty of googling what the Iron Throne looked like from the TV series. So this is my interpretation of it. As you can see here, I'm covering all of it, and it's an easy model to paint. That's for sure. I'm going to leave this one to a side and dry it as such. And then I'm going to go over to Euron Greyjoy, which has his entire character, save for his hands and facial features and the axe model, covered in this fashion. So don't be afraid to make any mistakes here in terms of like besides the facial features you've covered before. So cover it entirely with Vallejo's German Grey, and then we can pick out individual highlights using some black features later on as well. A very easy model to paint. If you're starting out painting, this is probably one of the easiest models you will come across. I'm using a size 3 brush here, and if you feel that this one from Winsor and Newton Cotman series is a synthetic brush, but you can use something smaller if you want more control, for example, as well. When it comes to his left hand holding the axe, I'm also painting it in this color because he's wearing gloves in the card art, as well as I'm also covering the axe handle with this one, as it also has a dark color from this in the card art. However, I do take care not to cover the metal. You can cover the metal in this one if you want to. It's not a problem. It just gives it a darker finish and lays a nice foundation for the what do you call it? For the metal paint. Something like this doesn't have to be entirely perfect. We can touch up mistakes as we go along later on as well. Something like this is what it looks like. We go on to Hostatully. Hostatully looks like this when I've almost finished him. So here he has the overcoat as well as his armor, but not his shoulders are covered in this paint. So I'm going to go over to Hostatully and cover him as well, taking great care not to touch his beard and hair because that's very, very white and it's going to be hard to fix that. So taking great care trying not to cover it. So you can start with this one up here as I do. And then you work yourself down towards the rest of the armor. Taking care not to cover the shoulders as well, as I have another plan for that one, for another color. For the helmet, same thing there as Euron Greyjoy. You can cover it with this color, or you can leave it and paint it with in a silvery fashion, as I plan to do so later. Same thing with the sword, of course. And don't forget the rest of the armor here. It's probably some kind of leather. And I'm painting in a downward fashion to make sure that I cover all the nice details. And that's why I also diluted the paint here, so all the nice details are actually covered. And should you touch the sword with this one mistakenly, not a problem, we'll cover it later with a metal paint anyways, and this is a good cover for the metal paint too. Don't forget the underside. It's a little bit hard to reach it on camera, so I'm going to see if I can do that for you guys. Otherwise it's just annoying to have something white from the primer showing as well, and I don't like that. Looking quite okay there already. Leaving this one aside, washing my brush. Cleaning on a piece of kitchen towel, as I show you, you can do that. Making sure it's nice and clean. We're moving on to any other kind of colors that have this color, and this means we are going to move on to Eddard Stark. Eddard Stark's furry feather or a furry coat. So we move on to Eddard Stark and use this one for the same color as well. Taking care not to cover his hair and try not to cover the the kind of like long robe or that he has around it. Should you cover it? Not a problem. We're going to cover it with a grey, kind of like a bluish grey tone afterwards anyways. Something like this, leaving it to the side. We're going to then go on and look what's next do I have. What next do we have? I don't think we have anything next for this particular color, so we're going to leave it to the side. And as we can see here, we covered quite a lot of them already. Now we're going to go into next colors that might be a little bit trickier. We're going to go on to paint Tyrion Lannister's red cover, as well as the other one that is red, which is kind of like his scarf, Jaime Lannister's scarf. And for that one, we're using a color called Contrast Blood Angels Red from Citadel, giving it a good shake and applying it neat. This one can be a little bit tricky to get to. So my tip for you guys here is to use as little paints as possible and apply it as it is. Now, in this case, we are going to use it for his... There is two parts here in the miniature. The belt, which you try not to cover, which is going to be in a different color, as well as his forearms. And this is just a base color. There will be we will be able to darken it significantly afterwards. When we're done with it, for the highlights. You can just paint over the belt as well. That's also perfectly fine, as I'm doing here. I lost patience. Try not to cover it. And as such here. So he's done that, and then we've got Jaime Lannister, and Jaime Lannister has his little scarf up here. Remember, use just a little bit of paint, and you'll have more control. On the back side as well, he has a small sliver of this one. As such, very not that hard. Now we're going to also continue to Jaime Lannister. For Jaime Lannister's white cloak, we are going to use Cold White from Vallejo, as pure as it is, and we're going to use it neat. And this is a good way to cover any mistakes you had in the past for the primer. Anything that the primer didn't cover will be a nice cover for this one, and it will provide a nice foundation for the next step of Jaime Lannister's cloak, not robe. That's the word I was looking for before. Jaime Lannister was a Kingsguard. And lo and behold, he killed the last king he was a guard. Therefore, he's known as Kingslayer. And it's used derogatively, so he's not very happy about that one. But he did the realm a good service, in my opinion, because he did kill the Mad King, also known as Aegon the Mad, I believe it's called. Please correct me if I'm wrong here. Again, you shouldn't be too careful when you paint the cloak here, because in case the rest of the miniature is not painted. When it comes to anything else that is white, we also got Hoster Tully, and his hair is fairly white as well, so we can continue covering his hair. And as well as his beard, taking great care not to cover the rest of the black part that we just finished. All right, and then we also got any other white part. Yes, we've got it for Oberyn Martell. His forearms are supposed to be white. Making sure if you cover something else, no problem. We haven't started with this miniature yet, so it's not a problem if you do so. That's all the white parts as far. Oh yeah, there's a few more white. There's a slight white part over here, also that we forgot from the King, Robert Baratheon. His shoulder pads are white, according to the card art. So that one is done. Now we don't have to worry about the white parts anymore. Oh, not almost anymore. With that said, we're going to go over to all the metal and steel parts that we are now going to cover. And for that, we are using a color, so hopefully I have something left of it, called Gunmetal from Vallejo's Game Color series. We use it neat. It's a very dense color. Of course, I close all the bottle corks from everything else as well. Now, we're going to use this one for all swords and armor. So we're going to start with Jaime Lannister's armor. He has the vast majority. And we're going to apply it neat on his shoulder pauldrons. As well as his frontal plate armor as well. His sword is sheathed, so we don't really have to worry about painting the sword there. And here we can also cover up any mistakes we've made when it comes to and also the red part as well. Now here has a little bit of chainmail in the front here that we can also cover in this paint. Don't forget the underside of it. And the end of the scabbard here can also be painted in this manner as well. Fantastic. Leaving this one to the side. I'm going to go over to the spear of Oberyn Martell. Tip of the spear. Very easy. Done. Robert Baratheon doesn't have anything. He doesn't have armor or arms on him. But we do actually have the sword of Eddard Stark. Massive greatsword. And the metal parts really are what stands out for some of the miniatures. This one is done. Oh yeah, to the side here as well, can also be covered. The axe for Euron Greyjoy. Very easy. Very small part of the miniature, but also something that stands out when you paint it. Don't forget the inner side of it, as well as the top. This one is done. Moving on to, we've got Hoster Tully. Here it doesn't matter, as you will see here, we're going to cover it anyways with a sword. That we covered part of it with the the German grey. It didn't matter. Just provides nice extra colours. But he does actually have a full helm. We are going to cover right now. And here we're going to take grey care not to cover anything else around it, because metal is a very dominant colour. Making sure you take it inside here as well. And under it, getting it all parts of these nooks and crannies that you want to. Alright, we've also got, let's see what else we have, and I believe that might be it. Oh no, we've got the steel gloves for Jaime Lannister, we forgot as well. You can paint them in another manner if you want to as well. It's almost done. Moving on to the next part of the miniature, touching up this one a little bit more. Of course, always cleaning my brush in between. Moving on to the next part, which is going to be Olenna Tyrell, because she has quite a bit of it. First of all, and that's going to be a whole different series of colours. We're going to go for her underskirt, which is going to be Waagh flesh. I'm going to apply it neat. It's a fairly liquid colour now, because I'm probably not shaking the bottle enough. So we're going to do that for her underskirt here. Let me see if I can actually put this one on top of a painting handle. Maybe it will be seen better. Hopefully it will hold. This is from Red Grass, this painting handle. I should have used it earlier. I'm painting this one a slightly different colour from the rest of her dress. Make sure that it contrasts a little bit more. As such, leaving it like this. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm going to close the paint pot. Move on to the next one, which is going to be Nurgling green from Citadel as well. This is not it's a layer paint, so it's not a base color. And we're going to use this one to cover her entire rest of the kind of like dress here as well, and it contrasts off nicely towards the darker Waagh flesh. And use this one for the entire cloak here, not the upper part of the head. The headpiece is something else. I'm going to show you how to paint it next. Be careful when you paint it, because they paint right next to the hands is going to be in a slightly different color as per the card art. But Olenna Tyrell is looking much better already. Head of the House Tyrell, she was a schemer, really good at it. Managed to put her daughter, maybe granddaughter, Marjorie Tyrell on the Iron Throne, or close to the Iron Throne at least. And I can open this paint pot again. It fell accidentally. As such, can be quite nice. I'm going to leave this one aside for a moment, clean my brush, and then go on to the next step of Oleana Tyrell, which is going to be her headdress. And for a headdress, I'm going to use a color called Incubi Darkness. Neat. And I'm aware that her face looks a little bit dodgy. We're going to straighten that up in the highlight stage as well. I'm going to leave Oleana Tyrell a little bit to the side. I know we haven't finished entirely with her, but I want to leave it to dry a little bit. I'm going to go back to Hoster Tully and paint his forearms with the same Incubi Darkness colour as per the card art. I'm going to show you the card art, show you what I mean. Obviously it's going to be in the end. It's slightly on a greenish look as well, and that's why I'm using this one. And it contrasts off well to the otherwise fairly dark miniature. His hands will be slightly in a different colour. We'll come back to that. But he's looking fairly okay already, almost ready for the final stages. And when it comes to this colour, I'm also going to mix it in with a little bit of Eshin Grey to create a nice mix for another colour that I want to show you. I'm using it a bit off camera, so about 50-50 mix. And I'm using this one for Eddard Stark's long cloak. To contrast nicely off the otherwise fairly dark character. Not mean that as a person character, but mostly as the colours I've used. It's perfectly fine to paint him with an Eshin Grey as well for the cloak. Don't forget his inner sides as well with this colour. See if I can angle the miniature, see if I can get it in, get the paint on from the inside as well. Hopefully that will be all right. Leaving this one to a side, moving on to Robert Baratheon, who's also going to get this one cloak. I'm using this one because they were fairly close in the series. They were good friends. And also because we haven't painted much with him as well lately. He's after all the king. The king can do as he likes. maybe it wasn't him who said that. Who was it who said the king can do as he likes? Let me know in the comments. Let's see here if I can get this one straight. Don't forget the upper part here as well. Where his fur cloak is prominently featured. Alright, fairly okay. Leaving him to the side. We've got a few of the characters left. Most notably the hair as well. But we've got Oberyn Martell. We're going to put him up on the stand next. And we're going to cover him his body armor with a kind of... we good? Nope, not this one. Contrast Cygor Brown from Citadel. We're going to use it for all his body parts and body armor. And then we're going to cover it, painting it downwards. And that goes for all his pretty much upper torso and back. As well as his shoulder pauldrons. As well as the front. And that means he is left fairly well protected. Don't forget his underneath the crotch as well. You want it to be fairly dark features here. Moving on, putting him aside. Going to use the same color here for Robert Baratheon. For his cloak of armor here. As well as underneath here as well. Leaving him aside. Moving on to Eddard Stark. Use him for the same kind of bodily armor functions here. Can use it for its gloves as well. And in between you can dab it around there. And that leaves them done. And then we've got, moving on to Jaime Lannister. Also has these features here. And before we forget about it, yeah, we can also cover the sword here with this one. And some of his gloves. And before we forget about it, we need to also paint some of the red parts here as well. With the same Blood Angels red as we had before. Signifying the Lannister colours quite prominently. With that one done, we are then going to go on to, we're going to go back to Cygor Brown because we forgot Tyrion Lannister and his kind of a little cloak here underneath. As well as his arms here as well, can also be covered in this colour. And thank you very much for being with me so far. As such, we have got one detail for many of the characters left, and those are the hair. Before we do this, I want to make sure that I put on a large detail of Jaime Lannister's cloak. And for that, I'm using a contrast color called Apothecary White. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It's kind of a very greyish mix of a color. And you want to make sure that it gives a little bit of white contrast to the rest of the color, almost a grey look. As such. This one is done. Moving on to everyone's hair. Hair can be a little bit tricky. Now we've covered some of the hair already. Now we're going to go over to Tyrion Lannister, and Tyrion Lannister is getting a colour called Mournfang Brown for his hair. It's fairly brown, dark colour. Tyrion Lannister gets this one. And taking care not to cover any of his facial features. As such. His brother, Jaime Lannister, is going to get the same colour. You may ask, why do you give someone who's fairly blonde in the series? And I'm going to explain that to you later on when we start doing the highlights, which will be fairly soon. Someone who is not very blonde is Eddard Stark, which is going to get Rhinox hide. And that's also what Robert Baratheon is going to get as well. So we got Robert Baratheon gets this colour. And for the beard as well the top of the head. going on to Eddard Stark. Looking quite okay. And we've also got Euron Greyjoy, goes back to, which I should have painted with this one as well, which is Mournfang Brown. Can apply the next layer on Tyrion for this one. It's a little bit too little. 1 or 2 layers can be applied for every character like this. But we do actually have one character that has not been covered yet, which is Oberyn Martell. Oberyn Martell has a pure dark colour. And for that one, we're using German Grey for this one, which will be highlighted up to a black colour for this. And Oberyn Martell also has his spear. So we've got 3 features left we need to cover before we go into highlights. We've got Oberyn Martell's spear, which is going to be a contrast Wyldwood from Citadel. Give it a nice wooden colour. And then he's mostly done. Apply it neat. And that takes care of him, his spear. We're going to go in and apply some gold for his armour, and this one is using Retributor Armor. I put it into a war paint pot because it makes it a lot easier to handle. I'm going to cover his forearm protection. And with this one, I'm also going to, oh, I forgot the back. Jaime Lannister's plenty of armor. That is this color as well. We've also got Robert Baratheon's crown. And we've also got, yeah, that's about it, I think, for them. Final detail. We've got Robert Baratheon's arms, which is going to be a colour called Zamisi Desert from Citadel. go. This is all the base paints, all the miniatures. And now we're going to go into highlights, and for this we are going to use, I'm going to use the miniatures that I pre-painted before. We're going to put these miniatures aside. I'm going to go back to Tyrion Lannister. And now when we come to highlights, we want to make sure that the miniatures really pop. I'm going to start by putting his belt with some XV88 from Citadel. Also covering his scabbard from his dagger. And also going over his boots with this colour as well, providing a small touch of highlights. We can do this one as well for everyone who has boots. Going over Robert Baratheon, this was he looks like when I've put on all the paints before. Moving on to Jaime Lannister. Hoster Tully. It's about blending in the colours in a nice and even way. Eddard Stark, alive and well. And finally, we've got Oberyn Martell, sorry. Those are all the highlights for the boots. Now moving on to highlights for armour. For armour, you can apply some silver if you like. We can use this one for, say, for example, Mournfang silver. You can also apply a small sliver of black wash over them if you want to. For this one here, I'm using Stormhost silver. That's my watch. Make sure they really pop. Oops, fell around. Also using Stormhost silver for the spear tip. And the sword here as well. The sword for Hoster Tully. And the prominent features of the helmet can also be done like that, as well as the top of the helmet. For this one, I also like to put in a small feature here with the Stormhost silver, the fish on his signet. It can be in black as well if you want to, as per the card art. The silver axe on Euron Greyjoy, and that concludes all the Stormhost silver details. Now, we said before we wanted to colour it a little bit darker red for Tyrion Lannister, and you're right, I should. And when it comes to the darker colours, you can use, for example, Mephiston red or Carrack red. I think it's Carrack red. I'm going to use this one to make sure. I've also painted the book here, which I forgot to tell you about. You can dab it around a little bit, make sure that it's not as bright as the Blood Angel's red. Darken it a little bit like this. As such. You can also do the same for Tyrion Lannister. No, sorry, I'm now mixing them up. For Jaime Lannister. Same thing there. We've also got the features of the face, which will come next. And feature of the face will be Kislev flesh on all the facial details. And this is a nice detail because you can really make sure the facial details pop out a little bit more. So we're going to go over to Tyrion Lannister here, and we're going to make sure his... Now you can start by painting them, the eyes of the whites and stuff like that. I'm not very good at these things, so I'm going to make sure that I cover my mistakes by raising the raised areas. Says it is a tiny epic series. My aim is just to make sure that it looks good on the table. Finally, we get Hostatully, a little bit dark here on the face. Hostatully is one of the miniatures I'm fairly happy with. And we've got Robert Baratheon as well. For his drinking horn, you can paint it a Ushabti Bone, and I'm now going to fix up his crown, which I forgot before, and the pre-painting of this one, which will also be his drinking horn up here with this gold feature. Now, you can add any variety of details as you like. This is just showing you a good way how to apply it. I'm going to apply some dark Reaper for highlights for the blue coats and stuff like that. Starting with Olenna Tyrell. Which I forgot to paint here. I should not paint this one. You can paint it over now. His the side armor here can also be painted here with these ones, featuring it a little bit more. His cloak can be painted, the streams of the fabric to highlight this one here. Make sure that it's kind of like a rolling fabric. By using the side of the brush. Prominently as such, and you can use that also for Robert Baratheon's cloak. Just dabbing it lightly around. You can use any colors of the base that you like, but this concludes my painting for Game of Thrones, tiny epic Game of Thrones painting. This is just a basic way of showing you how to paint it. As you can see, there's my mistake. There's going to be a little bit more for the Game of Thrones thing, I choose to dry brush the swords here on the back using an old brush, and just to give it a little bit more of featuring detail. You can add any details you like afterwards, just like it, so it looks like swords on top as such. So this really concludes the this painting of Tiny Epic Game of Thrones. Thank you very much for Gamelyn Games that allowed me to paint it. I'm going to put this one up here so you can see it, and you can all see them up here like this, and they're all here. There you go. Put this one aside. All of these comes with the base game. They do not come painted. If you want to try and paint them yourselves, it's not that difficult. And there are 2 expansions as well. One of them features a Heroes pack, which we will paint later. And there's also another expansion called Ice and Fire, which features another 5th player and a co-op expansion mode. So thank you very much to all of you who have watched so far, and I'll see you in the next video.